Major changes to school lunch programs were intended to improve healthy eating habits while helping to decrease obesity in school-aged children. Our next guest, Cherylyn Harley with Project 21, is here to talk about how many of these programs are getting a failing grade. They simply are because the kids don't like the food. So we've got to change the taste buds of the kids, but this doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight. The problem here is that, the requirements have been slowly phasing in last year, this year, and what we're finding is that the kids don't necessarily like whole grain pasta. And we're also finding out that the people doing the cooking of the whole grain pasta are having a problem with it because the pasta falls apart.
Really?
Wow. I guess the bureaucrats in Washington didn't think about the practical aspects of making whole grain pasta, which perhaps some kids don't like. Another example, regionally, in New Mexico, they have to make whole grain tortillas. Those are also cooked a different way, and the kids don't like these either, all right? So here's another thing. There's also a requirement about so many, percentage of the vegetables have to be fresh. Right. Well, guess what, Angela? Fresh may not always be the best option. They're on the truck a little longer. And you know what? Frozen may also give you the same amount of nutrients that children need.
Let's talk about low-income children, right. Low-income African-American
issue.
So if they don't like what they're eating and they're throwing it out, this is sometimes all the food they have.
Exactly, and that is really my big concern is that, when we put these requirements, when we say whole grain and fresh, what I worry about is we're developing standards which may not fit for the entire population of the United States. And again, for low-income kids, if this is the only meal that they're getting,
right,
and they don't like the whole grain pasta, they're going home hungry.
So what are the what happens if a school district decides I want to opt out of it, or is that now what school districts are saying? I want to opt out of this requirement.
Right. Some are doing that, but Angela, that means that they can't accept the federal subsidies, right?
So that means they wouldn't be able to feed with the free lunches.
Exactly. So, it's a catch-22. If you want to be able to accept the federal money for school lunch programs, then you're going to need to abide by these rules.
Right.
It's fine, you can opt out, then you're not going to have the money to feed those children that need those meals.
So,
right?
Folks, yeah. So
right.
when we talk whole grain, we're talking pasta,
burritos, tortillas, biscuits, right? Anything that has a grain element, bread. And so some of the school nutritionists have asked Congress, well, can we roll that back to maybe 51%? And really, that's to give the schools and the kids a chance to adjust,
acclimate,
right?
So why doesn't that, do we need to bring that to Congress? What do we need to do?
I think they are doing that. The National School Boards has brought that up. The School Nutritionists Association has brought that up and said, frankly, folks, we have a problem. The kids aren't eating the food, we're losing money, and we're not meeting our requirements.
The losing money is just everything that we all think government is, just bureaucrats, and it's just like so much lost money, and you can't, a program is not properly run.
Right. And the other thing, Angela, is you also wonder, we have these federal bureaucrats who are coming up with these rules. And as a mom, I question, would you have children at home?
Right.
Do you realize that kids have very finicky palates, that if you just can't all of a sudden just force new food on children.
You can barely do that with me as an adult.
Exactly. I have the same issue. So, we just want, we all agree we're on the same page with helping kids eat better and healthier and to reduce the obesity problem in our country. But there are other things that we can do. Perhaps we can slowly have schools adopt the rules. How about if we have more phys ed programs?
How about that? Imagine that.
Imagine
like
that.
we used to do. We had playtime. We'd run around and
How about if we increase recess? Because, the little boys, as we know, the ones that tend to have, more incidences of ADHD, it's almost it's like we're doing things in a vacuum. Like we want to reduce obesity by just food.
Right.
But you can't do it just alone. But why don't we also let them run around outside a little more?
But everyone know. I mean, we don't need Jillian Michaels to tell us this. We know
Right.
that if you want to keep your weight down, it's a
Right.
combination of what you're eating
Right.
and exercise.
Right.
And the fact that schools have taken phys ed and so many other very essential programs out of the school
Right.
is just it's not
Well,
helpful.
here's the other thing they're doing. They're introducing iPads. I'm not a big fan of that.
What do you mean
They're introducing iPads in the schools.
So the children need to buy one? And
the children are using the iPads as an instrument for learning, which I applaud that and may be wonderful. But here's my problem. I think then when you do that, the kids are spending more time on the iPads and again, more sedentary activities, which is not what I'm in. Right? I want them less time on the iPad and more outside in the playground running around. So again, we do all these things. We love technology, so we're trying to revamp the school lunches. We're introducing iPads, yet we're reducing time outside. And I just think that, again, let's take it in total and come up with some solutions that are going to work for children. And again, the kids are going home hungry. And here's another thing. The older kids who have access to transportation and vehicles, guess what they're doing, Angela?
They're going to Wendy's, they're leaving campus.
Campus and going to fast food restaurants. Now, isn't this what we were trying to avoid in the first? So it's these law of unintended consequences because we're trying to do one thing and then the net result is something else. And that I think is very unfortunate.
Cherylyn Harley with Project 21. Always good to have you back on the show.
Thank you for
talking
having
about
me.
a very important issue. You always do, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much,
We'll be
Angela.
right back.